Welcome back to Movie On. Today I'm going to explain an American comedy film called Crank from 2006. In the start of the movie, we see a man named Chev, who's a professional assassin and also the main character of this movie. Chev wakes up but starts to feel something weird in his body, like he's losing all his strength. He gets out of bed and searches around his house for a clue. Then he finds a DVD and plays it. He sees his enemy, Vicky Verona, who has knocked Chev out with a baseball bat and then given him a Chinese poison through injection. He does it because a few days ago, Chev was given a contract to kill the Don of Los Angeles. Verona tells him that after 1 hour, you'll wake up, and soon after that, all the blood in your body will clot up and you'll die. Listening to this, Chev gets angry, and in his anger, he picks up the TV and smashes it on the ground and kicks it. Because of this, his blood starts to rush, and he starts to feel better. He then quickly goes out of his house and sits in his car and drives away. Then he calls his friend who was a doctor, but he was out of the city on vacation and doesn't answer Chev's calls. Then he calls his girlfriend who also doesn't answer. The poison starts to show its effects and his heartbeat slows down. Chev's eyesight also becomes blurry. To wake himself up, he steps on the accelerator and because of the high speed of the car, his blood again rushes and he comes back into his senses. While driving, Chev calls his friend and tells him to find Verona, and also orders him to inform everyone that if they see Verona, they should tell him immediately. Then Chev goes to his acquaintance Orlando's place and asks him about Verona's location. At this, Orlando tells him that he doesn't know anything about his location and that he's also trying to find him. Then we see the poison starts to act again, and Chev's heartbeat again slows down. But Chev, in order to excite his body, takes drugs from Orlando. By taking them, he gets better and stands up. Then he notices that the more excited he remains, the less the poison affects him. He then, just to get excited, starts to fight Orlando's men, and after a short fight, he runs from there and gets in his car. Orlando's man tries to stop him, but Chev drives away. While driving, Chev receives a call from Verona, who says to Chev, "Why aren't you dead?" and also threatens him that he'll kidnap his girlfriend. Chev is not afraid of him and says to Verona, "Come to my face and then I'll tell you." During his call with Verona, Chev receives another call, and this call was from his doctor. Chev hangs up Verona's call and answers to his doctor's call. He then tells the doctor about the poison and the symptoms, to which the doctor figures everything out and tells Chev that he'll be there in an hour, and you should do whatever you can until then to remain excited. Chev understands, and then he drives his car inside a mall, because of which the police are chasing him, and while he's driving, he gets into an accident, because of which his car is upside down. Chev manages to get out of the car, and then he runs out of the mall and sits in a cab. He tells the driver to drive, and some time later, the poison again starts to affect, because he was sitting inside of the cab for a while, and his blood flow has gotten back to normal. He tells the cab driver to turn on the music to full volume, and he starts moving his body to the music, because of which the effect of the poison goes away. Then he stops the cab in front of a store and he goes inside. He points his gun at the cashier and beats him. From that store, Chev steals a lot of food and energy drinks and comes back to the cab. He tells the driver to go to Beverly Hills and he starts eating. We see a man, Carlito, who was in his penthouse. Carlito dives into the pool for a swim, and when he goes inside the pool, he sees Chev there, and Chev points him to come outside. Carlito's men point their guns towards Chev, but Carlito stops them. Here we get to know that Chev used to work for him. Chev tells him everything that's happened and asks for his help, but Carlito says there's no cure for this poison and no one can save you now. Because Carlito didn't help, Chev gets angry and goes out of the pool. Chev comes back to the cab, but the driver stops him from getting inside because his clothes are wet. Then Chev pushes the driver down on the ground and says to everyone that this driver is an Al-Qaeda member, because of which everyone starts beating the driver. Chev takes his cab and drives off. On the way, the doctor calls Chev and tells him that his flight has been delayed and instructs him to take an injection known as epinephrine. He tells Chev that this drug will keep him alive, and you can find it at any hospital. Chev receives a call from his friends, who tell him that Verona's brother has gone inside the hotel. Chev drives to his friend and asks if he's alone inside, and his friend says yes. Chev goes inside the hotel, and after seeing that Verona's brother has seen him, he hides in the kitchen. Verona's brother takes out his gun and follows him inside the kitchen, but Frank has already left through the back door. So Verona's brother also goes outside, but at that time, Chev comes and slices Verona's brother's hand with a knife. He then picks up his pistol and kills him. After searching Verona's brother's body, Chev finds his phone and calls Verona from his brother's phone. He tells him that he's killed his brother. Listening to this, Verona gets very angry, and then Chev tells him about a necklace he found on Verona's body, and Verona tells Chev that the necklace belonged to his grandfather, who gave it to his son, Verona's father, and it was really precious for him. Chev cuts the call and goes back inside the cab. Then he drives to a hospital and goes inside. He asks a nurse to give him epinephrine. The nurse tells him to wait and goes inside. Chev sees a nose spray nearby, and he starts to take a lot of it, because they also contain epinephrine. The nurse, after seeing his behavior, calls the police. Chev starts to take the nose spray that he stole, and soon he sees the police have come over there to catch him, because of which he runs and hides inside a room. There he sees a patient and comes up with a plan to escape the hospital. He wears the patient's clothes and goes out, but the police see him and start to chase him. Chev starts to run from them, and soon he sees a patient who is being taken inside the operation room for his heart problem. Chev quickly points his gun to the doctor and tells him to give him epinephrine. He shoots some shots towards the policeman, and after getting the epinephrine, he takes the doctor hostage and goes towards the lift. Then he gets inside the lift and throws the doctor out. His doctor friend has only said to him to take 1/3 of the injection, but Chev takes it all, because of which the adrenaline in his body rushes, and he runs out of the hospital. Then his doctor calls him and asks, "Have you taken the medicine?" Chev says yes, and then we see that Chev snatches the bike from a policeman and rides off. But the policeman doesn't give up that easily. He quickly grabs the bike from the back, but Chev doesn't stop, because of which the policeman gets dragged on the road, and he finally lets go of the bike. Chev, because of the high adrenaline rush in his body, gets very excited, and then he starts to perform stunts on the police bike. He stands up on the seat of the bike, and he gets into an accident and falls onto the table of a close-by diner. Then we see that Chev's girlfriend, Eve, calls him and tells him that she was sleeping, and that's why she didn't answer his calls. Chev tells her that he was poisoned, and tells her that some people will try to kidnap her, so she should stay inside her home, and he's also coming there to meet her. On the other hand, we see Verona, who was sitting close to his brother's body. He says that he'll take revenge for this from Chev by killing his girlfriend, and then he tells his men to find her and bring her to this place. Then we see Eve, who, after hearing a bell, goes to open the door, and after opening it, she sees that it's Chev. Chev asks her to come along with him, to which she tells him that she'll change her clothes, and then they can go outside. She also tells Chev to turn on the microwave, and then she leaves. But as Chev was about to turn it on, the effect of epinephrine wears off, and poison comes back. He then puts his hand inside a waffle maker and turns it on. He does this so that the pain will make his blood flow faster, and it works for him. Then we see Chev taking Eve outside. When he sees Verona's men there, he intentionally drops Eve's bag, and while Eve was busy picking her things up, Chev easily kills Verona's men so quietly that Eve doesn't even notice anything. Then he takes her to a restaurant where he tells her that he's an assassin, and that he was given a contract to kill Don Keene, but he let him go because he doesn't want to keep on living like this, and he's done this because he wants to live with her now. He also tells her about the poison that Verona has injected in him, and he was slowly dying because of it. Eve doesn't believe him because she thinks that Chev is a normal man, and he's just saying this because he wants to break up with her. Eve gets angry, and she gets up to leave. Chev tries to stop her, but then the poison effect comes back, and he falls down on his knees. Eve sees this and comes close to him, and to excite his blood, Chev starts to touch her body, and tells her to make love with him right there. First, Eve says no, but Chev forces himself on her, and soon she also agrees, and they start to get physical in front of everyone on the road. Then a school bus comes there, and everyone in the bus starts to cheer him on. Chev, while having such a moment, receives a call, and he finds out that Carlito's men have kidnapped his friend, and that they're inside of Don Keene's factory. Chev quickly gets inside the cab and tells the driver to go to the factory, but on the way, the poison again affects his body, and after seeing this, the cab driver gives him a medicine, because of which he gets better. Then he goes to Don Keene's factory, where he sees that his friend was killed, and it was Carlito's men who did it. The men tell Chev that Carlito was also involved in this. We see that Eve has also come there, and to protect her, Chev starts to fight and kill Carlito's men. He tries to take her out, but on the way, a big fat Carlito man comes to kill him. Chev puts that man's hand inside a sewing machine, and then he goes out of the factory with Eve. After they get inside the car, Carlito's men chase after them. Eve believes that Chev was telling the truth and asks him how they can cure him. On this, Chev replies that only adrenaline can slow down the poison. Eve gives him a blowjob so that his blood can flow faster and the poison can be suppressed. Chev, during all this, shoots at Carlito's men and finally kills them all. Then they both go inside a store and Chev starts to hammer some nails in his leg where he got shot. He receives a call from his doctor, who tells him that he's arrived and he was in the hospital waiting for him. Chev at once leaves the store and goes to the doctor's office. The doctor tries his best to cure him, but fails. He tells Chev that he can delay the effects of the poison, but he has no way of curing it. Then he installs an oxygen pump in Chev's body so that the blood flow inside his body can speed up. Chev calls Verona and makes a deal with him. He tells him that he'll give Verona his brother's necklace, but in return he has to give him the antidote of the poison. Verona agrees to this and says yes to the deal. Chev goes to Eve and promises her that he will come back to her, and then he goes to the hotel where they were supposed to make the deal. While going up, Carlito's men take Chev's gun from him, and when he meets Verona, he sees that Carlito was also there, and he had the same poison that Verona gave him. Verona takes the oxygen pump from Chev, and Carlito brings the poison-filled injection out and says to Chev that his time is up. Chev says to Carlito, "You got this dog to replace me?" And then he points his hand towards them in such a way that he was holding a gun in his hand, and he was shooting at them. On this, everyone laughs and thinks that he's gone insane. But soon, a sound of gunfire comes, and one of Carlito's men falls down and dies. He was shot by the members of Don Keen's gang, who, along with Don Keen, have come there to help Chev, because in the past, Chev didn't kill him and let Don Keen go. He came to repay his favor today. Then we see that both parties open fire at each other, and men from both sides are being killed. In all this, Carlito runs behind his man, and Chev picks up a gun and shoots at Verona. But he misses his shots because the poison started acting up again. Verona hides himself from Chev, and Chev chases Carlito, who was trying to run by getting in his helicopter. Chev catches him just before he could have taken off, but now Verona comes from the back and grabs Chev from his back, and once again injects him with the same poison, and says to him that this is the revenge for his brother's death. Verona takes out his gun and shoots Carlito too, and kills him. Then he sits inside the helicopter and points his gun towards the pilot, and orders him to take him away from this place. Just when the helicopter starts to take off, the noise and the vibration from the helicopter wings brings Chev back to his senses. He knows that he doesn't have much time left, so he quickly grabs the gun from Verona's hand, but the gun falls down, and because of Verona's order, the pilot lifts the helicopter above in the air. Chev and Verona start to fight in the air, and soon Chev pulls him out of the helicopter, and they both fall without any parachutes. Chev quickly kills Verona by strangling him and suffocating him in the air. After Verona dies, Chev brings out his phone, and while falling, calls his girlfriend Eve and tells her that she was the best woman that he knew, and he loves her a lot. Then we see that Chev falls down directly on a car, so hard that his body bounces because of the impact, so high that he falls a little ahead of the car, and Chev dies. On this, the movie comes to an end. To watch more explanations of these kinds of movies, click on the videos on your screen. Don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last, I will say, stay safe, stay well, thanks.